Hello, welcome back to the second part of my ramblings about movies that focus on Hollywood versus the fanboys and the source material, the difficult part of the discussion. Um, as I mentioned in my previous video, um, that I am okay with the changes that the studio made for the most part. Often, I the DNA fanboys in me do get a negative reaction at the first time I hear the news, and then as I calm myself down and read the fine print of what they are doing, often I am okay with the changes. The perfect example is Ultron. In Avenger 2, Ultron will be introduced and it will be nothing like his origin in the comic books. When I heard that news, I was not happy. But as I read on how they are trying to fit in Jarvis and Ultron, I think it will be okay. Like I said, until I see the movie, I will hold my negative judgment on that alteration. But Hollywood have time and time again altered the storylines for whatever it feel is needed to appeal to the broad audience, and that's where I think you know I can reason with the changes that the studio made and will continue to make. One of the things that I always try and explain to my friends when we debate about this topic is that the sole motive of the studios in making these movies is to make money, a lot of money, because it is often very expensive to make a superhero movies because it have a lot of special effect. So it is expensive. Thus, they always aim at the broadest range of audience. That means that it has to appeal to the 10-year-old all the way up to us. Okay, I can tell you the mind of a 10, 12, 15, 18 years old is not the same as this old man at 47. Okay, thankfully, uh, if you still had the same mindset at this age as a 16-year-old, I'm not sure how much can get done during the day. But you know, as much as I dislike that kind of widespread shotgun kind of audience, I understand why the studio do what they do, even though I detest the constant ways the studio try to appeal to the broad range of audience. I wholeheartedly applaud superhero movies that does not dumb down to the audience. I am a fan of comedy, okay, but there are time and place for it. And if you watch Captain America 2, which I think is a very good movie, it's a probably one of the most serious superhero movies that Marvel have done. Unlike the Avengers or Thor or Iron Man, where there's a lot of humor injected in many of the dialogue, which I don't like. Sometimes I believe it's way too much. But there's a time and place for comedy, And I think even the 12-year-old out there can enjoy the superheroes movie without it being dumbed down to that level. Um, that being said, if the goal of the studio is to appeal to the broadest audience as possible, then altering the storyline, the source material is definitely one reason that they have to do what they had to do. It's we all see Hollywood change the casting. Okay, often altering the casting, introducing different races into the cast of these movies have everything to do with trying to appeal to the broad audience. It's Hollywood may like to paint the social diversity message that is trying to be noble and better, but really at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to make sure that the broad audience is represented. Okay, from Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury to Idris Elba as Hamdo to Michael Duncan as the Kingpin. The studio, time and time again, have altered the race of many white characters in order to make sure that there are diversity on the screen to appeal to the bigger audience. Okay, you have heard me complain about Johnny Storm being cast with a black actor. My outrage or complaint has nothing to do with me being a racist. It has more to do that they choose a different storyline, the premise, the concept of the story with the young Fantastic Four just sounds so dumb to me. Okay, that bothered me more than the fact that they changed the race of Johnny Storm. But I guess like I said, Hollywood has done it before many times, and not in this movie. In superhero movies, there's a for those of you that watch a lot of movies, have you heard of the movie 21? It's about a bunch of college kids out of MIT that count cards and went to Vegas and won a lot of money. It's based on true story, a book, and the real story is about a group of Asian students at MIT. But if you watch that movie, guess what? They recast all the leading roles are non-Asian. And if you follow the complaint, although minor, from the Asian community when that movie came out, the reply from the directors and the producers was, hey, we didn't use any Asian actor because we just couldn't find anybody good enough, or they were not available for the movie. Really? So Hollywood have a lot of hypocrites, okay? They pick and choose the time to be noble. When you talk about changing the source material, changing the race of the actors and the cast to appeal to the broad base, Hollywood did it and will continue to do it because it can, because ultimately the broad audience that watch superhero movies are not you and I, not the collectors. Okay, that's where the problem with the source material and the changes came from. If you look at other franchises like Harry Potter's, The Hunger Game, Lord of the Rings. How many of those franchises did Hollywood recast the races of key characters in those movies? None. Why is that? Is it because hundreds of millions of Lord of the Rings books and literally hundreds, if not a billion, Harry Potter's? The first Harry Potter's book alone sold over 100 million copies. Lord of the Rings was written in a ton of different languages and sold over 200 million copies. Okay, so the wide audience that love the Lord of the Rings series, Harry Potter's, or the Hunger Games love the source material. So right there, Hollywood main core audience love the source material. So Hollywood, the studio, dare not change the source material. Dare not alter the cast. Okay, because the mass audience will never allow it. So at the end of the day, unfortunately, the fanboys out there represent a tiny little part of the target audience that the studio is going after. Because of that, if they feel any changes are needed in order to appeal to the bigger audience, they will do it, regardless of how much we hate it. Okay, that's the sad part. We can. I would end this with a crazy thought about how moviegoers are a different beast compared to collectors. Look at the Grateful Dead. Look at The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead comic books is one of the most successful comics to TV ever, right? 16 million people watch the TV show on a weekly basis, and as far as I know, on a monthly basis, something like 70,000 copies are sold to collectors and readers. 70,000 people buy the comic books. 16 million people watch the TV show. That's where I can see why Kirkman and AMC and the writers of the TV show may deviate from the comic book storyline in order to make it fit the TV show for the wide audience. Ultimately, that's always is the case with the studios. The collectors, the readers are such a small part, so we don't matter much. That being said, because of that, I accept that problems, and because of that, I am okay with enjoying the movies for what they are. I understand why Hollywood want to do what they think will make them the most money. Yes, for some people, the objective of making the most profit is evil, but we live in that kind of world. Profit is important, and that's what rule the studios. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.